Good afternoon, everybody. It's your host, Marlon Gardenera. You're listening to the Divided States of America show. I listened to a recording yesterday and my voice was fading away. I still feel the same, but I'm going to do my best to make sure we talk about what's all over the news. The Trump home in Mar-a-Lago was raided yesterday. The question is simple. Was it political, or is it possible Donald Trump actually did something wrong? We'll talk more right after we get started.
Welcome to the Divided States of America show, where your host, Marlon Gardenera, takes on the most divisive issues in our divided nation. We'll sort through the best and worst of politics and culture, asking questions and looking for answers that our two-ring, two-party circus has failed to provide. And here is your host, Marlon Gardenera.
We are here weekdays, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to take some Fridays off. Not every Friday is ready to hear how divisive and divided and ugly our nation can be at times. I don't know that today is any exception, but it's Tuesday. So with a long week ahead, we're just going to dive right into it. You've all heard the Trump estate, Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago was raided by the FBI. It is rumored and reported by AP from, of course, anonymous sources, that the goal or intent of that search warrant execution were items for the National Archives, records, documents, information that is believed to be at Trump's home. Now, we already know from last January, 15 boxes of items were taken from the White House to Mar-a-Lago. Obviously, there's lots of questions. Can Trump declassify the information? Is it highly classified? How is it being handled? How is it being destroyed? Lots of different questions that relate to it. But the boxes were there. The FBI, in the investigation or the early stages, they were cooperating. They gave them access. They got what they wanted. But just now, the FBI raided it. Now, there's so much being thrown back and forth, and I'm trying to look at this from the perspective of the average person who, number one, has no thought or fear or concern of the FBI raiding their home. Number two, normally takes the general assumption that when that happens, there's a reason for it. But at the same time, there are instances where you have to question what's going on, what's the motive, what's happening. Well, this is one of those cases where everyone is pointing fingers and blaming and talking to me without any question of what's true and what's not. And that's odd. Now, in this divisive country, in this divided time, we can already say people are going to line up on the right and they're going to say it's a witch hunt. They're going after him. They just don't want him to be president. And on the left, I don't know what needs to be said. I think most of the people I've talked to have just said, well, let's see what happens. Where are you on this issue? I'm curious. I'm always curious how this all is going to work out, but there's never a dull moment. There's never a window of opportunity where you say to yourself, what's supposed to happen is going to. It just comes with much more rhetoric than that, and it's awful. It's almost shameful. But let's start with what the president himself said about the raid. All right, the Trump statement. These are dark times for our nation. As my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided, and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. That's Trump's statement. This came out shortly after it was happening. Trump was in New York at the time. He was not at Mar-a-Lago while it was going on. We've heard it reported that they searched the home looking for documents. They got into his safe. We've heard all the news reports. I'm not here to regurgitate the news. I'm curious what the typical person, they have to go to work today, have to take care of their kids when they get home, have to pay their bills, trying to figure out when they could take their next vacation or what they're going to be able to do this weekend or not do this weekend. Where are you on an issue like this? Does it affect you? Does it matter? And then we can go to the political side and say to the right, where are you? And I can tell you the opinions are loud and clear. Although this one because I'm trying to follow the forward movement. I'm curious where it's going. I'm curious what the not left, not right version of America could potentially look like. This is purportedly from Andrew Chang. I can't verify it, but it says, I'm no Trump fan. I want him as far away from the White House as possible. But a fundamental part of his appeal has been that it's him against the corrupt government establishment. This raid strengthens that case for millions of Americans who will see this as unjust persecution. Now, I agree. There is going to be half of the country who thinks that's exactly what this is, an unjust persecution. But does the police department, sheriff's department, state government, state attorney generals, the attorney general of our nation, the DOJ, FBI, DEA, do they go on public opinion? One has to question, sure, but also assume that there are checks and balances in place within our justice system that keep us from carrying out unjust persecution. Now, we know that that's not always reality. And this could very well be one of those cases. I'm not questioning the veracity of it because it just started. I don't know the evidence. I don't know all of the information, but I can see people jumping out ahead. But Andrew Yang purportedly said, this falls into the unjust persecution and the perception that millions of Americans will have that. I'm curious. Americans have to know that the general counsel has to have looked over this in D.C. FBI headquarters had to have looked over this before it occurred. Christopher Wray was appointed by Donald Trump post Comey. So the FBI director is still Trump's man, still the guy Trump put there. They had to have reviewed this. The U.S. Attorney General, you would imagine it would get to that level, but if it didn't, you would have to imagine that it got to various levels and departments and groups within the Justice Department. Had to. The DOJ clearly knows exactly what's going on. Is it really safe to assume that everyone involved is a part of a conspiracy and trying to carry out a different form of justice on Trump than our normal legal system allows? See, here's the problem. I already know the answer. There are quite a few people who actually believe that everyone at every level of government is absolutely willing in plain sight to be a part of conspiracies that reach the highest levels, hoping for outcomes they're never going to get. I don't think the average person can safely assume that. Yes, there are instances where the wrong thing happens, but do we really assume that the deep state is in plain sight and that everyone at every level, including the judge, which you had to imagine had to apply a level of scrutiny on this, unlike many of the cases he or she has ever had to deal with before? I mean, can you imagine the fallout when we find out who the judge was or is in this particular case? Clearly, if it's someone appointed from the left, it'll go on, and that judge's integrity forevermore will be in question over one instant. If it's somebody from the right, how will they find ways to dismiss that person and say their judgment is no longer qualified? It's amazing. I've got a couple clips. One of them is my favorite, and keep this in mind. I don't really want to talk about Donald Trump, but you can't help avoid when a first has happened and a president's home has been raided by the FBI. Now, some of the comments in his statement, though, I have to go back. They do warrant questions. My house is currently under siege. Well, I'm guessing maybe they didn't break down the front door and they aren't smashing up all of his furniture and knocking things off the counter like you see on television. So when you say under siege, I'm sure they actually have a search warrant. We all can question the validity of it, but I'm guessing they actually had a search warrant. And unlike Breonna Taylor's case, I'm guessing nobody's firing off rounds and no innocent people are going to be shot, and you don't have to worry about where the bullets are going beyond that. I'm guessing that the people inside Mar-a-Lago weren't firing shots back as the FBI officers came in. But these things happen. The FBI raids places all the time. We talk about Brittany Griner and the fact that why should a celebrity receive any different type of treatment? Well, if they suspect that the president has committed a crime, I'm not quite sure why the treatment should be any different than it would be for Brittany Griner, or better yet, for someone who's not a celebrity and has to deal with these sort of things based on their actions, their potential actions, and or probable cause, because you need probable cause for a warrant. You need probable cause to say that the evidence that you believe proves this is where you say it is as you go search for it. So all of these things needed to be in place, but raided. Well, I guess the common term is raid. A bunch of people enter your place uninvited, unannounced, but occupied. Gives off the impression it's like a foreign country and we've taken over. I'm guessing they did in this raid what they do in most. They send in lots of officers. They send in lots of agents in this case, and they bring a redundancy of agents because they have to start the evidence trail. Where did we find it? What did we find? Where's it going? How's it being stored? And the complete evidence trail as you go all the way back out. They bring a lot of people. They search quickly. They gather all the information they can. If it's just, they're doing their job. But what does it say that so many people have already decided that the FBI is at fault? The Department of Justice is at fault. And the White House is aware and knowingly at fault. What does it say that people can't sit back and say, let's see how this plays out? Let's investigate as we get more information. If we don't get every ounce of information we want to verify, validate, comfort, make people feel more secure and confident, then investigate till the end of the world. But that I don't know, patience, it doesn't appear to exist when we're talking about Donald Trump. And I guess it just begs the question, why is he so important that law and order and the normal process couldn't even remotely be carried out on him in good faith? I understand the impeachment argument. That's political. Congress got to decide if they thought it was worthy of impeachment. The Senate got to ignore the facts and or hear the facts and decide there was nothing to convict on. That's political. But when our judicial system is a part of the process, how is it that America can so quickly dismiss every single person in it and assume wrongdoing is being done? It blows my mind. It amazes me. It amazes me. Well, you're at Andrew Chang. He thinks that the perception will be that it's an unjust persecution. I think he's even premature. And then we have Mike Pence, former U.S. president. He expressed his deep concern in his tweet. Newsmax is posting this. Deep concern Tuesday over the FBI raid on the ex-president Donald Trump's Florida home. And it said it smacks of partisanship by the Justice Department. Are you sure, Vice President Pence? Are you sure it wasn't legal and just? Do you have enough information to say that confidently? Does the Department of Justice ever sue anybody for slander or libel? I know we all have the right to our opinion, but there are times when people are saying something knowing it's false with the intent to do harm. Now, I don't want the government suing people for slander or libel. People should have the right to say any and everything they want. But is there any accountability when people make claims and they end up being dead wrong? Do they come back and address it? Do they apologize? Or do they act like it was never said? They didn't mislead people. The actions that people take as a result of being misled make no difference. Because I'm questioning, does Mike Pence have information we don't, so that he's confident that the Justice Department is actually doing this in a very partisan way? Just curious. Just curious. I don't know how many times he called out the DOJ when Trump was trying to use it for his own personal causes. Was it partisan then? Where's the balance? We have this divide because we just don't trust each other. But I don't care which side says something that is untrustworthy. I can't trust that this is already partisanship by the Justice Department because there's not enough information. It's just an assumption, a knee-jerk reaction. It's just it must be because I believe it, not it must be because we have evidence of it. I don't get how we operate this way. And quite frankly, I don't care if the Democrats do it falsely as well. And then, of course, there's good old Hillary Trump. I'm pretty sure they don't want their names mixed up. This unaffiliated voter, Wayne Dupree's show, posted this. This is where we are today. Hillary Clinton can openly brag about her private email server while Donald Trump's house is raided. I don't want to go back over the email server other than the fact that it was hers. And if they raided it, they would have taken that too. They didn't raid it. Why didn't they? Don't have all the answers to that. I can say if it was my email server, I would treat it as if it's mine. If somebody asks for something, sure, no problem. But you're going to have to do better than ask before I decide what I'm going to do with it. But I'm going to use this standard. Let's assume Hillary did something wrong, and all of the people saying lock her up and all of the people wanting a thorough investigation were absolutely right. I'll repeat that. Let's assume Hillary did something wrong. and all of the people calling for an investigation and all of the people screaming, lock her up. Based on that standard, even though it was on our email server, not information taken from the White House and part of the National Archives, with the potential of being national security valuable information that one maybe should have been passed on to the next administration for continuity. Maybe it's compromising national security. Maybe it was just a thank you note on a napkin. Who knows? I don't have the answers, and I'm trying to convey to each one of you. Neither do you, as you form an opinion based on nothingness. But if we assume Hillary did something wrong, why don't you have the same questions in this situation? Why don't you have the same fervor? Why aren't half the people saying lock them up? And I'm sure, don't get me wrong, the left will start screaming that. But why isn't the standard that you wanted to apply to Hillary Clinton the same for him? If there's any suspicion that something has been done and done wrong, why aren't the same people who were screaming for her to go down based on the assumption of information she had, not screaming the same thing for Trump? And then the association with our Justice Department, our opinions. Hopefully, it is not a public opinion poll that makes the Justice Department do anything, because we are in trouble if they do. We are in trouble if public opinion is what sways what is probable cause, what gets search warrants. And I understand that there have been search warrants that have been handed down before that shouldn't have been. And this could be that. But it's so early, it's amazing how our country's divide is being screamed at the top of people's lungs left and right. Hillary Clinton wasn't charged with a crime. Subsequent DOJs run by Republicans could have. At what point do we let justice run its course? Question if it hasn't, but let justice run its course. I get the impression here that that's not the goal, that's not the motivation. Right now, we're trying to convict the people executing the search warrant, and a lot of people aren't talking about why and what the impact of that could be. Oh, then it gets fun. Elise Stefanik, her statements, which are often not, representative of trying to find solutions and looking for ways for America to work better. She believes what she believes. She represents the people she represents. I don't think she would tell you very quickly she has very little concern for the people who didn't vote for her, although there are people in her district who didn't vote for her. And as I see the divide, it comes from our actual leadership. Our leadership is divisive. Their followers follow. This is not a complicated equation. Restraint is not something that we see from leadership. So they wonder why people don't show restraint, which is just baffling. Elise Stefanik, Joe Biden's weaponization of the FBI and DOJ against his political opponents is a threat to our democracy. What if Joe Biden didn't weaponize it? What if he was, in fact, unaware, maybe until it happened? What if the DOJ purposely didn't tell him it was going to happen? So specifically, he couldn't be a part of this. What if? Is it possible? Are you so certain? How much would you bet on it? Would you risk anything on it? Or are we just venting our opinions, not waiting to hear any truth, and just going with the divide and being perfectly comfortable with it? Again, Elise Stefanik, Joe Biden's weaponization of the FBI and DOJ against his political opponents is a threat against our democracy. We had an actual threat against our democracy when our democracy was trying to certify electoral votes to transfer the presidency to the new duly elected president. I'm guessing I will not find a single statement about her concern for democracy on January 6th from the people raiding our Capitol. The hypocrisy is endless. She's not sure. We don't know for sure. And democracy isn't threatened by an investigation with a warrant going through multiple channels until we actually determine that someone or some people in that process did it wrong. In which case, I will stand next to Elise Stefanik and scream at the top of my lungs, hey, this wasn't right. There should be accountability, prosecute. But I'm guessing that a lot of people aren't even remotely asking the question, is it possible Trump did something wrong? At some point, it does come off as a cult when there is no possible potential for him to have done something wrong. And let's be real. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Trump every day. But if I created a show and all I did was rail against Trump, I could grow this audience infinitely faster than talking about the people in the middle who just go to work, take care of their kids, try to plan a vacation, try to make sure the basics are covered, because the rest of us have a different set of circumstances we have to deal with. But the rhetoric here is why we have that distaste in our mouth, that distrust in our mouth. And this speaks to the fact that we aren't even looking for truth at the moment. We're looking for political points and to stir up supporters and get people to follow one side or the other. And the left is guilty too. I went to the left leadership Twitter pages hoping to find them convicting Trump with no information. There wasn't much available. There were some people who, don't get me wrong, are going to try to take advantage of it. And I say to them, based on what? You don't know anything yet. We're divided because you want us to be. And then there's a comment about Kevin McCarthy's statement. Kevin McCarthy, the minority leader in the House, put out a statement. It reads, the Department of Justice has reached an intolerable state of weaponized politicalization. I went to Pelosi's page. She didn't, at least in the first 10 tweets that I looked at, try to weaponize it and convict Trump. If she would have, I would have said, stop. You're ridiculous. You're absurd. We have a justice system. He is absolutely innocent until proven guilty. We do investigations when we believe we have probable cause. That's likely what happened. If it's not, everybody involved should be accountable. But if it had been Pelosi, I'd say stop. McCarthy, stop. Stop. Have some patience and some courage and lead, not just for your personal victory or your party's victory, but for the tone and tenor in America where we are against each other. The Department of Justice has reached an intolerable state of weaponized politicization. Did they do that when Bill Barr was in office? Did Bill Barr's memo about Comey, was that weaponized? I'm going to go ahead and say no, that's what the man believed. And I'm sure the left said it was. The point is, until you know something is, the idea that you can go out and convict ahead of time is why America's so divided. If you can't show restraint and patience, why would the people? He went on to say, when Republicans take back the House, we'll conduct immediate oversight of this department. Follow the facts and leave no stone unturned. Is following the facts and leaving no stone unturned something that the FBI and Department of Justice are able and capable of doing when it's against someone you like? Or is your version of justice, we only investigate people we don't like, and the people we do like, we're not even going to look into it? His statement is absurd. He's assuming it's already been weaponized. Not sure if it's happened, but he has made that assumption, expressed his opinion, and I wonder if he too is raising funds based on it. Again, when the Republicans take back the House, we will conduct an immediate oversight of this department, follow the facts, and leave no stone unturned. If you had any courage, McCarthy, you'd say, I want them to follow the facts and leave no stone unturned, even if it's against Donald Trump. I wouldn't say coward because I don't know you. I wouldn't say coward because I haven't had a discussion with you. But if I were in the same position you were, and again, I just wanted to add people to the show, I'd say Kevin McCarthy's a coward. I don't know if he's a coward. I just know that this statement reeks of things that he is not certain of. But for political points and to stir up his followers, he's going to say exactly what they want to hear. I hope their followers aren't that gullible. I already know many are. I hope the followers on the left aren't so gullible as to assume just because one person speaks it, it automatically becomes true. That's why we're divided. The lack of thought, the lack of respect, the lack of consideration, the lack of patience, the lack of just about everything is why we're here. But I don't want to misrepresent what the right thinks, ever. So I'm just going to share with you what they think straight from their mouths.
Save America attorney Christina Bobb was at Mar-a-Lago at the time of that FBI raid, and our White House correspondent Daniel Baldwin has her reaction to the raid in this exclusive interview.
Joining me now, Save America attorney Christina Bobb. Christina, you were at Mar-a-Lago Monday evening when the FBI raided President Trump's home residency and estate. Can you walk us through what happened from your perspective on Ground Zero?
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely a farce to pretend that this is somehow law and order or an attempt.
Stop there. How do you know? How do you know? Will you be accountable if it isn't a farce? Should our political leaders be trying to berate and degrade our FBI? Can every criminal who has to encounter the FBI from this moment forward do the same with the expectation that it's a farce and it all go away because of that expectation? Curious what their expectation is as they talk about this as a farce, although I'm not sure they know the details just yet.
At criminal justice. It's absolutely ridiculous that the FBI even did this. President Trump himself, as well as his legal team, has been more than accommodating and allowed access to whatever they have wanted in the past. To be clear, I saw reports earlier that the FBI was allowed at Mar-a-Lago before freely and voluntarily and took them to the locations that they wanted to see whatever they wanted. And that's.
Is there any possibility that they asked for a little bit more, have reason to believe it's there, didn't get cooperation from Trump? And let's just go on evidence. Trump is not very forthcoming with much of anything. He regularly told his staff, do not speak, don't provide anything. Based on our history, please, do we really think he just gives up everything and is completely transparent? Use your own mind, use your own head, use your own brain, decide for yourself.
All accurate and true. So the idea that they needed to conduct this raid, to me, is just it's just a weird power flex that I don't think is going to go over as well as they think it's going to go over. And I don't think the American people like it. I don't think it was necessary. And it's just Gestapo style, oppressing your political opponent because you're scared of him, not because there's actually any type of law enforcement needed here. And to be clear, we have Hunter Biden's laptop.
Do you think the FBI is scared of Donald Trump? Do you think the agents that raided it, the attorneys that presented it, the judge who had to decide over, do you really think everyone is scared and that was their motivation? When did we begin to think so low of everyone against Donald Trump and that every one of them are horrible people and he, in fact, is the good one? It's cultish. It really is.
We have the U.S. Senate Homeland Security Committee from 2020 chaired by Ron Johnson saying that Hunter Biden had nefarious ties with Russia, Ukraine, China. There's unaccounted for money. Where did these millions of dollars come from? We've got emails from Hunter Biden saying 10% for the big guy, that Joe Biden's obviously getting kickbacks.
So Hunter Biden said it, so it means it's actually happening. My guess is that every effort on everyone trying to go after Hunter Biden is going to be that he's not credible. He's a criminal. He is a part of these nefarious acts, as she discusses. So he said in an email, the big guy is getting something, and you automatically assume that's the case? Because I'm pretty sure Joe Biden has been pretty forthcoming with his taxes and his financial records, unlike the person you're defending. When does any sense of reality join in these conversations? You don't have to be for or against Donald Trump to still have questions about things like the forthcomingness of his taxes and his financial records. Apparently, someone has just declared that his taxes can be made available to people investigating. But nonetheless, if Hunter Biden did any of these things, prosecute him. Investigate. And as McCarthy said, he will do to the people who went and raided Trump's estate in Mar-a-Lago. Follow the facts and do not leave a stone unturned against Hunter Biden. And if there's a connection to what Hunter Biden did, to what his father did, go after him too. You'll notice there's no attempt to cover up wrongdoing by anybody. If Hunter Biden did something wrong, go after him. If there is an actual connection between him and his father, Joe Biden, go after Joe Biden too. When did common sense disappear from our discourse? Go after him. It's okay. I don't care what the left says. If they in fact go after Hunter Biden and they try to draw a connection with Joe Biden, there is one or there isn't. Go after it, explore it, find it. Go as far as you need to. That's common sense. That's what we would expect to happen if it were any one of us. Go after him. Stop talking about it. Do something. Go after it.
from our adversaries, from foreign nations, undisclosed. And all of that seems to go under the rug, along with Hillary Clinton's emails and all of the nefarious stuff surrounding her time as the Secretary of State. Yet, the FBI felt the need to raid President Trump's house, partially at least, for presidential records, which would include something to the extent of if he received a handwritten note from some prime minister.
There's a possibility that Donald Trump took from the White House documents that he shouldn't have taken, and they could be something as simple as a handwritten note from a leader of another country thanking him for his service or for whatever he did. There's also the potential that he's got national security information that should have been passed on to the current White House. There's also the potential that the information that he has not been maintained and secured the way the highest level of top secret information should be. There's also the potential that there's nothing there. All of these things are possible. What happened to the patience to determine what is truth and what is not? Unless your goal is to have us be a divided nation and you do not care about the impact of that, show some restraint. I really wish they would shut up. You're misleading people, and we don't even know what direction you're misleading them because we don't have enough information to draw all of the conclusions that have been reached. And our leadership is doing it too. And oftentimes the media is very guilty of it. So I picked a couple outlets who are not left-leaning media so that you get their representation, their reporting, their stories as they see it.
Thanking him for his time in office. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, and the hypocrisy is stifling. I don't believe it's lost on the American people. I think the American people are looking at this, scratching their heads going, we knew it was bad, but we didn't think it was this bad. It's that bad.
And it very well could be, and she could be right. But don't we have to let the evidence come forward and find out? Kevin McCarthy said when the House Republicans take over, they're going to investigate, follow the facts, no stone unturned. I just don't know why that doesn't apply now when it's against someone they don't like. If you have something on Nancy Pelosi, go get her. If you have something on Chuck Schumer, go get him. Common sense says that for the rest of us who have to be investigated when something is wrong, we don't care who the person is. If there's probable cause, go get them. Why do politicians think that if they like the person, they should be immune from these types of discussions? It's absurd. Kevin McCarthy, use your words. Follow the facts, no stone unturned. If after following the facts and every stone is unturned and nothing is there, the accountability trail for the people who believe there was and anybody who provided any false information, false testimony, false evidence that said it was and we find out it's not, should be held accountable for it. But don't tell us you're going to launch an investigation in the future on the wrongdoing in this investigation before you know if anything is wrong. It's the problem in America. Common sense is gone, but we want things to work out. They can't work out if we don't have common sense. It's not possible. That was OAN. I believe they're right here in San Diego. One America News. This one is my favorite. I really enjoy this person for purely entertainment's sake. From a fact-based perspective, why be fact-based when you can grow a bigger audience with rants and rhetoric that just gets people excited? And if people don't have time to look into it or don't have the patience to try to find the truth, it's easier to go along with this voice. Again, one of my favorites. And again, not to misrepresent things from a lefty's perspective. Let's let the right speak for themselves, because there are outlets, there are standpoints, viewpoints where we get to see firsthand exactly what the other side thinks. And again, I don't want to be the one that gets in the way or stands between people having a clear picture and a clear understanding of what the other side thinks.
Democrats, quietly cheered by rhinos, are once again trying to end Donald Trump because they are so terrified he's going to run and beat their socks off in 2024. And they are weaponizing the FBI and the DOJ to do it. This is bigger than Donald Trump and Mar-a-Lago, folks. It should terrify every American how terrified the establishment is of Donald J. Trump. And make no mistake, once they perfect this tactic, they will weaponize it against all of us. Donald Trump is just the man, the pillar, the shield, standing in their way, and now they're doing all they can to dismantle him. But if these snakes think this raid, this hit job on Trump is going to somehow make his supporters turn against him, well, they are as stupid as we thought. This is only going to cause the MAGA movement to dig in deeper. We aren't going anywhere, so strap yourselves in and hold on for the ride. From Nashville, God bless and take care.
Again, I'm entertained. Her representation of Donald Trump, one would believe he was Captain America. He is the pillar. He is the shield. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about what happened. We're talking about if it's justified. We're talking about the patience I think people should have before they jump to the conclusion. We're talking about our leadership and hurling left and right the conclusion to what has happened, even though they don't have the information. We're talking about the right saying that Joe Biden has weaponized the FBI and DOJ when it might not be true. We're talking about the fact that there might actually be evidence that something has occurred. They already had 15 boxes that shouldn't have been there. So there was a there. And maybe we've got to the point where there is still a there, but they're not getting it, and they took the next step. And what we have to assume is that everybody involved in that whole process was a part of a conspiracy, and they go home at night and they just sleep with this conspiracy, and it's the deep state, even though it's in plain sight, and on and on and on. And then you have the left who are trying to convict him before we have any evidence to actually convict him. Our political system and how it's being used is a joke. They make a mockery of the standards that those of us who are just regular people have to follow and work with on a regular basis. A complete and total mockery. It's a joke. It's embarrassing. The left is convicting him already. Based on what? The right is denying all of it. Based on what? He had documents there that weren't supposed to be before. He cooperated and gave them back. Is it not possible that he's withheld some information? We had testimony in the January 6th hearings that the toilets were clogged in the White House because they would be throwing away evidence. We had testimony that Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, used to burn documents in his fireplace. That doesn't mean the documents were bad. It could have been the same thing that they would have put in a shredder. I'm just guessing the protocol to deal with documents in the White House is not burn them in a fireplace. It could be. I could be wrong. I'm just saying that the restraint that we should have in order to make our country operate better and for more people to have more trust in the things that we need to have trust in. We need to trust the justice system. We need to call them out when they do something wrong, but we need to have a general sense of trust. And my question is, when they go against Donald Trump, are they all always bad automatically? Or is it possible Donald Trump did something wrong? I should have found the post that Donald Trump could murder someone on Fifth Avenue and they still wouldn't go after him. You start to believe at some point that that's true. Tommy Lawrence says that we're not going to stop MAGA. Who's trying to stop him? I don't think a lot of people want to see more of what we had. I mean, when Trump left, the economy was failed. COVID wasn't under control. People had been lied to about it. It wasn't the greatest economy anymore. The supply chain issues, the labor issues, most of those are related to COVID, the pandemic. We're still recovering from it. I'll let an election actually determine who Americans want. Knock yourselves out, America. Let's do it. But Tommy Lauren, I hope you're just doing it for entertainment's sake. He's not Captain America. We're not trying to turn the supporters against him. I'm only asking the supporters to apply the same standards that they would have for themselves to him. Apply the same standards Kevin McCarthy was using where he said, follow the facts and leave no stone unturned, to Donald Trump. I'm asking people who support him to consider the things that have been put out there and question at some point, are every single one of those things wrong? If you truly believe they are, maybe they are. I tend to think the smoke, where there's smoke, there's fire. But we only can rely on our justice system to determine that. So when we have our leadership going against the justice system before they have any information, but automatically assuming that they're at fault and everything is wrong with what's happening, where do we end up? The FBI director was a Trump appointee. Is the right going to get in power and literally, I know it's Steve Bannon's plan, to literally replace everyone and everything in it and just automatically make it right, even though they're trying to replace them with everybody that believes what they believe? I got to think and be thankful for the career the career administrators, the lawyers, the people at the Justice Department, the FBI agents, the blue, that they're not all corrupt. We talk about police brutality against black people. I think I use a number like 99% of police are great. Does that not apply to the people involved in this process? I just question America and our ability to have common sense and the cult-like following of either side and how harmful it is. Again, if we had to apply the standards we use in our day-to-day lives, I think we'd have to come up with different outcomes. We would expect a different discussion. At this level, it's comical, but sad at the same time. So the question remains, think about it. Was this political? Will you have any patience to find out, or have you already decided? Are you the judge, jury, and executioner, and it's already over? Or is the potential that Trump did something wrong, and only the evidence is going to prove that, so we need to let that occur too? Basic questions you're going to hear every day, both sides, don't care who it is. Got a topic, person, issue you'd like covered? Want more about Hunter Biden? I don't need to spend a bunch of time on Hunter Biden. If he did something, go get him. Go get him. Don't let a stone go unturned. Follow the facts, prosecute. If it reached Joe Biden, do the same. Does that same standard apply to Donald Trump? Having said that, thank you for tuning in. We're here weekdays, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. I've said it enough times, you think I could never mess that up. YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Twitter. You can reach me at host@thedsashow.com. If you got a question or comment, you certainly can add comments to Facebook, Twitter, and even YouTube. I'll reply direct to each of those comments, each of those questions, each of your concerns. That's the point of this. Respectful, thoughtful discussions about the divisiveness of our country and ways that we're going to get past that. And we typically are going to have to handle that issue by issue because God knows the issues come up every day. Every day we can see front and center how divided we are. And that's a shame. America, we should be better than that. We should be working towards being united and not taking joy in the division. And right now, our politicians, not only do they take joy, they're raising money off of it. They're counting on it. They're counting on you having a problem with another American. That's not the America I think anybody hopes for. But unfortunately, that's the one we have. Man, oh man, I wish it were different. I really do. Now, we do have some comments. I don't want to ignore them. I can even go further than that, and I could probably post some of them up. This comment came in. You can see the name. Keep in mind the director of the FBI that executed the search warrant was appointed by Trump. This is not political. This is about investigating criminal conduct. Let's hope he's right. Let's hope he's right. Same person put up another comment, pretty straightforward. The left, plenty of Republicans in the FBI. Listen, there are Democrats and Republicans everywhere. Part of the conspiracy that would need to occur in order to be truthful about the idea that this is a government conspiracy is the assumption that everybody in the government is conspiring against him, even though many of them support Donald Trump. That's where the common sense parts just falls off, and I don't understand how we keep going along with this. I don't get it. I don't get it. And the final comment, same person. I don't hear anyone saying Trump is innocent. What I hear is Hunter, Hillary, and Bill, Trump is under investigation for criminal conduct. That part we know is a fact. I appreciate your comments. You can always post them. We will put them up here. We will talk about them. We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate you being here for the show. Tune in tomorrow. We'll be back with more of the divided states of America. Again, it works better when it's you sharing what you think. I look forward to hearing more. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Divided States of America show. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to the channel and share this video with your family and friends.